Hey everybody, this is Donnie here with Pvgna.com again, and I wanted to make a video about the word adaptability and how it pertains to winning games and winning MMR in Dota 2. So when we're looking at the word adaptability, what does it mean? It means the ability to adapt or to change what you're doing based on the situation that you're currently in. So how many times have you been in a game where you are at the drafting screen and everybody's like kind of pick the heroes that they want, and you got two people with carry selected in the bottom lane or the safe lane, and people are kind of arguing about what role they're playing. This is kind of the worst possible scenario to start a game. So one of the best ways to deal with this scenario and to handle it in a way that doesn't upset your team more is to have an adaptable hero pool. So if you only play carry, you're going to run into the scenario more than somebody who also plays off lane and support. Now, this doesn't mean, like, I'm not saying just pick support every game, because that's generally what is going to happen. Like, if you want to last pick every single time, then you probably are going to have to pick support most of the time. And that probably isn't what you want to be having happen anyway, because supports are generally less important as far as getting countered than the carry or mid are. So if you have this adaptable hero pool, and I'll just use mine as an example, I like to play carry, I like to play support position like 4 roamer, and I like to play off lane. I like to make stuff happen around the map. So if I am going to, like, sometimes you just want to play carry, and that's fine. But if you're going to play carry, you need to pick a hero that you know is going to get countered. Like, that's what's going to happen. If you first pick a carry, it's going to get countered. If you first pick a mid, it's going to get countered. So just get that through your head and accept that, and use that as practice of how you need to itemize to change your build from the cookie cutter standard build to deal with the counters that are facing you. That's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, and we'll get to itemization in a second. Going back to the hero pool, some of the heroes that you can pick are also flexible themselves. So let's say in my case, I like to play off lane and position 4. So a lot of the heroes I like to play can play both of those. So if I play like Clockwork, Earthshaker, Night Stalker, Spirit Breaker, Slardar, these kind of heroes could be a roamer, they could be an offlaner, and that gives your team some more flexibility in the picking phase. Sometimes people just won't adapt their picks, so you're going to have to fit into the composition of your team. Additionally, it's also really important to have a few heroes in each role that you could potentially pick, because sometimes somebody's going to instant lock Spectre and go bottom, or Anti-Mage is a better example. And if you are only going to play Sven this game, you're going to have problems, because Jungle Sven is simply not good at any reasonable MMR, or even like at low MMRs. If you pick Sven and you go to the jungle and you have an Anti-Mage, you're going to probably lose the game. You're making the game harder for yourself and your team, and if you want to gain MMR and like climb the ladder, then you need to take that kind of mentality out of your brain and just not do that. So how do you do that? Find some heroes that you like. That's the most important part in each role. So for me, for example, this happens very rarely, but sometimes mid is left open. And I don't really like playing mid, but I do enjoy playing Zeus. I do enjoy playing Dragon Knight. I enjoy playing Juggernaut. And, in rare scenarios, I like playing Razor. And, so these heroes can be played mid. Maybe they're not the best mid meta heroes at the moment, but I simply don't play OD. I don't like the hero. I don't think he's fun to play. So I would rather not pick OD. And if I end up having to play mid and somebody on my team is like, pick OD, pick Storm Spirit, pick Tinker, I don't like any of those heroes. So if I play them, we're going to lose. And in those cases, I'm just going to pick Zeus. I'm going to pick Dragon Knight, depending on what the scenario is. And we have a much better chance of winning because I actually know what I'm doing on these heroes and I enjoy playing them. So, this goes for support. Some games you're just going to have to support. As you play Dota, you are going to have to play support. Otherwise, you're going to have more and more bad games where people just, like, the other team has a good composition, you have a bad composition, and you just get run at and you lose. So learn a couple heroes with staves. Learn a Dazzle. Learn a Vengeful Spirit. Learn an Omni Knight, a Baden. Any of those. If any of those even are remotely fun to you, then play them a few times and add them to your support pool of heroes that you can pick when the time comes. Same goes for, offlane, carry, etc. Have a few heroes that can play a couple different roles. Have a few heroes that you can play in each role so that you don't run into problems in the picking phase and that your composition of your team is not bad and putting you on the back foot from the very, very beginning of the game, which just tilts your whole team and it makes it so you have to basically play perfectly to win the game, which is pretty hard to do. So, moving on to itemization, let's go here. And let's just use the example of No-Tail. No-Tail is kind of widely known as somebody who has semi-strange item builds. But when you actually look at his item builds, it's not that they're strange, they're just adapting to the current situation. So against a bunch of heavy right-clickers, if he's playing Tiny, for example, he likes to build Butterfly. Why does he like to build Butterfly? Well, Tiny has no armor. He has fairly low mobility. I mean, he has Blink Dagger, he gets Shadow Blade, so his mobility is okay, but his movement speed isn't that great, so Flutter is nice. And he also has a bunch of attack. He doesn't have a bunch of attack speed, so he needs attack speed. And probably the most important point is that he doesn't need to build damage. Like, Tiny hits super hard once he gets his Aghanims and he is level 18. He hits, for like 400 a right click, 300 a right click. So you don't need to build like a Daedalus. You don't need to build a Desolator. Those are just redundant items. And I see that happen a lot in games where people take the strength of a hero and then they just continue to iterate on the strength of the hero to the point where at some point you're getting diminishing returns. You don't need to build damage items on a hero that already has good damage. You don't need to build attack speed on heroes that have good attack speed. Like, Troll is not going to be buying Mask of Madness and what am I looking for? Mask of Madness, and just like, he's not going to build like an Orchid, because that just doesn't make sense. These items aren't important on Troll because he has max attack speed and an ability that's on low cooldown. It's not that important. He's not going to build Echo Saber, for example. He has the attack speed already. But as far as itemizations go, then let's go back to picking heroes for a second. If you want to play carry this game, you're going to pick Anti-Mage. Guess what? There's probably a pretty good chance that somebody's going to pick Bloodseeker against you. There's a good chance people are going to pick Legion Commander. They're going to pick these catch heroes that specifically deal with you. So what do you have to do? You need to itemize differently. You can't just necessarily go your standard Anti-Mage build. And this is something that I think a lot of people at like the mid-range MMR still struggle with a lot, is that they know what the pros build, they know what the high MMR players build on average, but they don't know what they build in situational games. So if you are playing Anti-Mage against Legion Commander in a regular pub, there's a good chance it's going to be like you and the Legion Commander in lane at some point. Your other lanes get pressured, your supports leave. You can't just like rush Battle Fury in the situation. Legion Commander is going to destroy you. It's just how it is. Once you get into the mid game, Legion Commander is going to have a Shadow Blade, they're going to have a Blink Dagger, and they're going to be trying to catch you. So obviously the counter to that is a Lincoln Sphere. Moreover, just beyond the Lincoln Sphere, you're going to be wanting to build stuff that keeps you alive during the duel. You have to plan for the scenarios of getting caught. If you're playing a Juggernaut, you're going to get dueled by Axe at some point if you're in the same game. You can't just assume that you are never, ever going to get caught. So, if you're facing a hero with a Blade Mail, buy lifesteal and buy tanky items that don't necessarily boost your damage, because if you die, you aren't going to be doing any damage. If you're doing slightly less damage and surviving, you're doing more damage than if you have lots of damage and you die instantly every single fight. So adaptability in items, adaptability in hero pool, adaptability in the heroes that you pick specifically are all super important things if you want to enjoy Dota, win games, and gain MMR. And I can't stress it enough that this is like an underrated skill that you can really work on. And it doesn't like, I'm not saying that you need to build like Rod of Atos on Sven to catch people, although maybe you can theory craft a scenario where that would be okay. I don't really know. But like, you can think about the problems that you need to solve in this particular game and then adapt your item build on your hero to fit the scenario within reason, and you will win significantly more games than you would if you just build whatever, like, the guide that you might have selected or whatever, like, Arteezy builds in a standard game of competitive Dota on the heroes that he plays. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that helps. We'll see you next time. Again, this is Donnie for Pvgna.com, and good luck and have fun.